Greetings and salutations. My name is Michael Schwahn and welcome to the channel. We have some more reaction content for you, and today we are checking out the official trailer for DNF Duel, which is Dungeon Fighter, that's what DNF is. Dungeon Fighter Online. It's like a 13-year-old online game that is still played heavily. I did play Dungeon Fighter Online, by the way. It's a really fun game, but the problem that I personally had with it is that it never gets difficult. It's like a side-scrolling beat-em-up game. Like if you like kind of, but it's also like a looter game. It's like if you made Diablo a side-scroller is the best way that I can describe it. If you made Diablo a 2D beat-em-up game, sort of. Like that's as much as I could try and explain it in terms of like what Dungeon Fighter Online is. It's really fun. I enjoyed it. My personal problem is that it was never challenging, and I've talked to people that have played the game for a decade and they've got maxed out characters in this, and I've asked them, I'm like, does it ever get harder? Did I just not go far enough? They're like, no. It's the same issue that I have with like Warframe. People have said that like Warframe's really fun, and I'm like, yeah, and they're like, yeah. And I had a friend that tried it out for a while. They're like, it's really easy. And we had the same conversation with them friends that were like super into Warframe and had played like 4,000 hours of it. They're like, there's very specific things you can do that are difficult, but there's not many of those. And largely the game is just a hack and slash fest of awesome. And I'm like, I like challenges in games, man. But anyway, that all aside, this is DNF Duel. This is going to be a fighting game that is made by Arc System Works, as well as aiding, but the primary one that matters to me is Arc System Works. Arc System Works is the minds behind Guilty Gear and BlazBlue. They've also made a couple other games. They made Granblue Fantasy, and they also made Dragon Ball FighterZ. They are, for lack of a better like reference, they're kind of like the messiahs of 2D fighters, especially anime style fighters. And whereas like NRS is kind of the people behind that are behind the wow, my emptied emptied of all words. Injustice and Mortal Kombat. Really talented crew over there. And I can't actually remember the name of the group that makes Tekken. And then you got like Bandai Namco that makes Soul Calibur and stuff like that. But Arc System Works has some freaking pedigree involved with it when it comes to fighting games. So yeah, and I've enjoyed a lot of their games. My favorite that they've ever made is just basically anything from BlazBlue, although the most recent one, BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle, was not like super high up on my list. All of the actual main core BlazBlue games, love them. But I'm always interested in what Arc System Works is doing next. They recently released Guilty Gear Strive, and that game is fantastic. I love it a lot. It has some issues, and I don't actually play it that much because of those issues, but it's a very beautifully well-crafted, fun-to-play fighting game. And I'm very interested in what they're doing next. I want to see them make a BlazBlue game that's as beautiful as Guilty Gear Strive, but we gotta get through this first, and I'm very interested in this as well. Now, unfortunately, this trailer is short as fuck. It's 46 seconds long total, so hopefully we see something good in it, you know? Hopefully we see something good. But I'll stop yammering, and let's just see what they have to show us. So without further ado, let's begin. Man, that was so short. God, that was short. Everything you said sounds great. I'm just curious how much Nixon will be involved. As for animation, this looks very much like Granblue Fantasy Versus. Like maybe a slight mix between Granblue Fantasy Versus where they went with Guilty Gear Strive. It's not quite as heavy lines in the anime style that they went with Guilty Gear Strive, but it still has the anime style quality that they started out with in Granblue Fantasy Versus. It looks really good. I like the way that it looks a lot. Nexon, not Nixon. I don't know enough about the company, but you're welcome to share why you're concerned about it. So there's so little to actually be able to interpret. I'm really curious, though. At one point, where is it? Not a very long trailer. We see one of the guys, like, doing a power-up, and I think he gets countered after this, I think. Yeah, right here. Like, this dude... Can we slow this down? Slower down. Let me see. Playback speed. Slow. Oh, God. There we go. Yeah, she, like, counters him. And she even gets, like, a little aura around her. Like, he does it first. He gets this aura, and then he does a move. And then she gets the same aura around her and attacks through it. Interesting. We still know, like, basically nothing mechanically about this game, but it's just one of the... It hopefully will be one of the next big upcoming fighting games, right? Granblue Fantasy Versus did not do well. It sold not very great, and it died almost immediately. The main reason for this is that it didn't have a really big franchise, that in the West anyway, to be, like, carried on the back of the way that, like, Dragon Ball FighterZ did. And it's had one problem that Dragon Ball FighterZ had, which is it has really bad online. Granblue Fantasy Versus has horrible online, really bad netcode. And in the age of being locked inside for 600 days because of the pandemic, games that had bad online became really apparent. We're like, all right, well, I'm never touching this because I'm locked at home and I need to be able to play things online. And so if it doesn't work, you just, like, throw it aside and look for something else. Most fighting game developers seem to be learning that they need to care about their online. Every single new fighting game that comes out, they all want to talk about their new netcode and how they use a core of rollback netcode as the base design for what they developed moving forward. And this is even true of Arc System Works. While Granblue Fantasy Versus, BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle, Dragon Ball FighterZ, all of those had delay-based netcode because that's just what the company had been working with for a really long time. One of the big points that they made with Guilty Gear Strive was the move to rollback, and the rollback in Guilty Gear Strive feels really good. And then we had other fighting games come out recently, such as Melty Blood Type Lumina that has rollback, and then we've been seeing them tout rollback or rollback style netcode in the platform arcade fighters such as Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl or the upcoming Multiversus, which are competitors to Super Smash Bros. And Super Smash Bros. Terrible online. Horrible. Unplayable. And I hope that they use good netcode here, because while there is a very strong core audience for Dungeon Fighter Online, you're asking them to move from one game to a whole new genre, and everyone else, you're asking them to pick up a game that otherwise is brand new to them with no foundation for a franchise or anything like that to really pull them into it, to make them want to try it out. And that's what caused Granblue Fantasy to die. While there is a very large core audience for Granblue Fantasy, the mobile gacha game, a fighting game is a completely different venture, and that's going to be the same hurdle that this game has to get at. This was Dungeon and Fighter, or different name Dungeon Fighter. It's all part of the same everything. Like, this is still part of the Dungeon Fighter Online stuff. I think Dungeon and Fighter was what was before Dungeon Fighter Online. So, if I'm remembering my gaming history correct. A lot of their games are pay-to-win mechanics or pay-to-speed up, from V4, Arcade, and they bought a bunch of other developers from MMOs and only made them worse. Okay. Since this is Arc System Works, and there's not been any mention that it's, like, on a mobile platform or anything yet, I imagine this is just going to be a traditional fighting game release in the style of Arc System Works. Like, it's just gonna it'll probably be $60. It'll probably have a character pass that'll have 5 DLC characters, maybe 1 or 2 of those, and then they'll find out where they go from there, try and scrape some money together, and hopefully at least make the cost of the project back. And who knows, maybe it'll go, it'll get bigger and stuff. They got a lot of companies involved, which makes me wonder what's happening with this in particular. So if we do go over here, we got Nexon, Neopol, Arc System Works, and Aiding. That's 4 hands in the pot. So, yeah. I don't know. I am curious to see what happens, though. I am curious to see what happens. We still didn't get a date or anything like that. Is it in, like, the video description? You're seriously going... to release something you're calling the official trailer and still not have a release window. Dungeon Fighter Online 2005. So show off some cool skills. They don't even have a release year, man. They don't even have a release year. Crazy. It is strange to me to release what you're calling the official trailer, and it doesn't even have a release window. It does look really good, though. But, who knows? I guess we'll see it sometime in the future. I don't know. I mean, this is probably Team Blue that's working on DNF Duel, because Team Red is still developing for Guilty Gear Strive, so it's the secondary team at Arc System Works. I don't know what the other people have in what their involvement is, but who knows? If you know, let us know down in the comments below. And what do you think? Are you a Dungeon Fighter Online fan? Have you been playing it for the last 16 years? I thought it was like 13, but time's gotten away from me. Are you a Dungeon Fighter Online fan? And if so, is the world of Dungeon Fighter enough to make you interested in a 2D fighting game? Or are you a fighting game fan and don't know anything about Dungeon Fighter Online? With one or the other, are you interested in this game? And if you're neither of those, like if you're a fan of both, you're probably ready to go on DNF Duel, right? But if you're neither a fan of Dungeon Fighter Online and maybe not super into fighting games, where do you stand on DNF Duel? Does this look like something that you might want to try? I'd love to hear from you. Leave your thoughts down in the comments below. Two other great places to continue the conversation are on Discord and Twitter. And speaking of Discord, we have a channel dedicated to these reactions where you can place trailers of your own that we can check out together live on stream, because we do stream 4 days a week on Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday, and I would love to see you there. But we're going to get out of here. There's plenty of other videos for you to watch on the channel, so if you go watch one of those other videos on the YouTube, or if I see you in the live stream, thank you and enjoy.